They say an artist bears their soul to the world through their work. So I'm curious, how would you describe the soul of this artist? Or this one? What if I told you these brushstrokes, shadows, and textures were all created by the same artist? A machine powered by artificial intelligence. This tech is a product of machine learning. That's a process where engineers use historical data to train a system to predict an outcome through analysis. Instead of writing a code that guesses an answer, engineers train machines to recognize features and patterns in data and make informed predictions. Here's an explanation from the guy who co-wrote the most studied textbook on AI, computer scientist Stuart Russell.
Instead of us having to write a whole bunch of tedious code, we just throw a whole bunch of data at the learning program. Kind of like, we throw a whole bunch of textbooks at kids and then they learn, right? We don't reprogram their brains to become engineers or baseball players. We just throw a lot of data at them and they learn. And so building machines that way has turned out to be quite effective.
Humans analyze data in similar ways, but with limited memory and processing power. And machines with more training can produce more accurate results. This is Hotpot's AI art maker. It generates art from plain text. It can replicate artistic styles like anime and watercolor, and it knows the techniques of master artists like Salvador Dali or Van Gogh. In fact, Van Gogh didn't paint any of these. They're all Hotpot originals.
It can take your ideas as a seed and it'll generate maybe like 10 to 20 versions or 100 variations, which you can cull through and say, no, that's interesting, that's not interesting. Find me something else. And it can basically amplify your thoughts.
We're essentially programming the machine without code, just ideas. Hotpot's founder Clarence Hughes sees a future where human effort is boosted by AI, where our imagination's empowered by intelligent systems, not replaced by them.
The way we think about it is more like a supervisor working with a junior employee, right? And so what we want AI to do is become that junior employee, and everyone has essentially an assistant. That's why we call Hotpot your creative helper. We want Hotpot to be basically your personal assistant that you supervise. You give the ideas, you provide guidance, and then Hotpot generates the ideas and does all the mundane work.
At its core is a system called DALL-E. Developed by OpenAI, it's trained to understand plain text and generate visual results. DALL-E was introduced in January 2021, but a second version's already blowing minds across the web, this time with photorealistic images. Here's DALL-E 2's take on a koala bear riding a motorcycle. Here's 35 versions of that same idea. It's a creative director's dream. DALL-E 2's images are watermarked, but photorealism raises some flags, which the team outlines, explaining, without sufficient guardrails, models like DALL-E 2 could be used to generate a wide range of deceptive and otherwise harmful content, and could affect how people perceive the authenticity of content more generally. DALL-E 2 additionally inherits various biases from its training data, and its outputs sometimes reinforce societal stereotypes. OpenAI says the system's capabilities are limited by design. Explicit content can't be generated, in part because the system isn't trained with explicit imagery. And DALL-E 2 can't generate photorealistic images of real humans like public figures. The team also flags certain prompts and themes like illegal activities, self-harm, even matters of public and personal health are flagged, preventing the machine from generating potentially harmful content. But despite these safeguards, OpenAI still limits the user base, so this system's not available to the general public. For now, it's strictly a research tool aimed at helping machines understand natural language.
It's kind of like what I think of my own imagination, where everything's swirling around and then comes together, right?
Kathleen McGiveron is a human artist. She runs an art education blog that provides drawing lessons and resources for art teachers called Ms. Artastic.
I wasn't expecting, I think, some of the images to have style either. I think that is what kind of shocked me. I was like, oh, some of these are like surreal almost, or like abstract.
She says she's impressed by these tools, but if AI is coming for her job, she's not worried.
Years ago, when 3D printing first came out, there was this big wonder among artists, like, will this replace my art and my like ability to create, my making, am I becoming obsolete? But 3D printing has been out for a while now, and while it is an amazing tool, it is still just that. It's just a tool.
Clarence Hughes says he's motivated by a greater goal.
Concretely, what we see are a lot of creators, whether they're authors, musicians, entrepreneurs, Shopify merchants. They all have these very interesting ideas, but for one reason or another, usually due to financial constraints or networking constraints, they don't have someone who can help them turn that idea that's locked in their head into reality. But AI can do that.
This tech's still in the learning phase. It's early for AI, but seeing is believing. That's true today as it was back in 1990.
Technology makes it difficult, maybe even impossible, to tell what's real and what's not.
30 years ago, Adobe debuted Photoshop on the Today Show.
And then I can pop yourself right in.
And this was the reaction.
Now, why would you want to do this?
One guest described it as unnatural.
And you're not supposed to be able to go back in time and move the photographer a few feet to one side. That's against what we think of photography as being.
But since then, Photoshop's become a photographer's tool, and it's an industry standard. It's in grade school curriculum and essential for work in design and creative arts. It's even given us a new word, photoshopped. That was hard to predict in 1990. And Photoshop did make it easier to produce fake images. Today we live in an era where media is produced by everyone and information comes from everywhere. If we want to thrive in the era of AI-generated imagery, we'll need tech safeguards coupled with stronger media literacy programs. Clarence Hughes says he knows the tools can come with risks.
I don't want to be naive here. No technology, fire, the printing press, nothing is perfect. Everything has flaws. But there are certain things that indisputably propelled society forward, right? And technology is that thing.